Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to go from trauma to transformation? Well, we're going to do a little bit of grief alchemy today. It's time for take two. Boom, let's wake up the Giants. Yeah! Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants and 12 Journeys coaching. And I'm here with Mr. Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls and a whole bunch of other great things. This is the second time we've started this show. There's going to be a lot of there's going to be a lot of people that are going to just watch this and think this is just the first time. We tried to do this a couple times and technology was just not doing its thing, or maybe it was doing its thing. We don't know, but it wasn't working the way that we thought it was going to work, and so there was an incredible delay, and it was just interesting that it happened this way. But guess what? But we're back. We're back. We're right on time. We're exactly where we're supposed to be.
And this is how life goes, right?
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, and that's okay.
Perfect lesson.
Yeah, perfect lesson. But I'm going to have Nick reintroduce our guest and do a quick share of our website real quick so that you can see what we're up to in the world and how you can, come and join us and potentially get some resources as you're going through your Giants journey as well.
Because that's what we're here for. We're here to create an impact in you. And this story, I know today is going to do that because Caroline is a powerhouse, and we'll get into her story a little bit here. In an hour, as much as we can do in an hour. So make sure you go over to my12journeys.com. If you click on or hold your camera up to the QR code in the top left of the screen, that'll take you right to My 12 Journeys. You'll see a powerful personality quiz here. It's 60 questions, takes about 20 minutes to do the quiz. It gives you a very clear outline of where you are in your Giants journey. This is not meant to be a sentence, a life sentence of who you are. This is just simply showing you where you are on your Giants map, so that you can start to build from there. Because if you don't know where you're at, if you don't wake up to that, then it's really hard to change anything. And so transformation is all about being gentle with every step. So go to my12journeys.com. There is a ton of valuable information in here for you. You'll be able to see tributes from people that have gone through our programs. This is my favorite part. If you love giant music, go to our Spotify list. This is for the movie that we want to create here. And there's over 2 hours and 22 minutes of songs for the Giants movie. So go check this Spotify playlist out. It's pretty killer. And then you'll also see how to get the books, see our YouTube channel, see our partner coaches. I want to shout out Laura Lunt and Rebecca French, who have done our Limitless Giant community for the past few years, every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Mountain. It's an incredible community where you can take the 12 journeys and really plug them into your life at a deeper level. And so that's about as much sharing as I'm going to do there. Make sure that you do go to YouTube and subscribe, because you're going to see tons and tons of content and great videos like this. And this poor dude over here just can't stop creating. So you're going to see even more AI. And perfect. My digital avatar might show up. Yeah. So should we introduce our guest again?
I think so. Let's do it. I'm so excited to see what it's going to do. Here we go.
Yeah. So we'll see how well I do reading this time. So we are diving deep into the heart of transformation, how to turn the darkest grief and generational trauma into spiritual awakening and purpose. Our guest, Caroline Rena, is a grief alchemist, spiritual guide, and transformational coach. She brings over 35 years of lived experience, from childhood trauma to military sexual trauma, generational Holocaust trauma, and more. But what makes Caroline extraordinary is how she's transmuted that pain into light and now guides others to do the same. She's also an Army veteran, podcast host, and a powerful voice for empaths, sensitives, and seekers on the path of deep healing. Get ready to discover what is truly possible when we face our pain with love and reclaim the truth of who we are. Caroline, welcome to the show again. So good to have you. I'm so glad the tech is working here from the phone.
I am so excited about this now.
Oh, it's going to be good. We like to dive into your journey. And as a start point, as a reference for the 12 journeys, we go through the first 6 inner journeys, which is who you think you are, who you thought you were, how that plays into where you are today. Can you give us just a sampling of who you thought you were prior to your awakening? Can we do that?
Sure. Let's start and do the questions nice and slow so I can remember them all.
Yeah.
Now, now that it's gone crazy. All right.
You bet.
So who I thought I was who I was told I was. So when I was growing up, it was all about, especially as a female, and I grew up in the 60s and 70s, or late 60s and 70s. So back then it was a little different than it is kind of today. And it was always like, you got to be small, and you got to make sure everybody else is okay. And so I kept shrinking myself, and I watched it, and I thought that was the right thing to do because that's what I was told. So that's kind of where I started, mixed in with all of the traumas that you shared in that, which crushed it even more. So that's the smalls end of it. I was in the smalls for probably 32 years.
Wow. And it's amazing how automatic that is. And it's by design. This is the interesting thing, is when people wake up, one of the things we see is that they really judge themselves.
Yeah.
They say things like, I should know better by now. Why haven't I figured this out? Who am I to do big things? I'm just like the book, a small. So who am I to do great things? Did you find yourself in that space when you had your awakening at all?
Absolutely. I think for me was that imposter thing, because for a long time I felt like I knew it was there. I knew I had the strength. I knew I had the everything to back it up. But then I'd look at myself and I'd be like, I hear the voices in my head, and it would go into, oh, that's not true. You're full of crap, all that kind of stuff. And so what I learned from all of that was being gentle with myself. Every time I went through a challenge, or whenever my little girl decided to show up and lose it, there was
my little girl shows up and loses it.
Yeah.
The boy showed up, he still sometimes.
Yeah.
So we both have both inner children. It's not like we don't. There's a balance in there. The feminine and the masculine is within everyone. So being gentle with those little children inside of us, whether it's the little boy or the little girl, it doesn't make any difference. But this is important. And the more gentle we are, the less we begin to feel imposterish.
I'd love to play with this. I got a chance to be on your show this week, and it was fun because we dove deep on some of this.
Yeah.
And that idea of imposter syndrome, I talked about the gap on your show.
Yeah.
And the gap of who we are versus who we think we should be, or who we are versus who we think society thinks we should be, or culture or family. And that imposter syndrome is when you have an awakening, then you start speaking your ideal, but your reality hasn't yet aligned. And the idea of identity is that your inner world and your outer world match. They're identical.
Right.
And so when you're feeling imposter syndrome, what you're saying about who you are and what you're growing into, it's not aligning with your reality. And so we feel like a dissonance or a fraud in that gap. Can you speak to that?
Yeah.
Boy, can I?
Oh boy.
Yeah. So there's always a dissonance. There's a dissonance, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. As you go through the challenges, as you go through the healing process, the healing journey, one of the biggest kickers was when I learned this years ago was fake it till you make it. It's like you pretend, because that's how the brain works. You have all the technical words.
I can go into it if you want, but yeah.
But it's like the brain works as if you're thinking about, as an example, a lemon, and your mouth starts, I'm doing that right now, right?
Yeah.
Start watering if you're thinking about a lemon.
I felt it right here.
First, I was about the worst case scenario of your life, which I've done. And the challenge is that it knows your brain makes that happen. So it's like when you fake it until you make it, you're actually reprogramming your the cells in your brain to think differently.
Yeah.
And that fills that gap in that you were talking about, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty interesting how that works. I've always been an analyzer. I've always been a puzzle person, so I love learning how things kind of work together. So so that was part of that process.
Well, what you're giving us here is that because you were something doesn't mean you have to be that for the rest of your life. It's not a life sentence. It's just simply the programming that was plugged in from society, culture, family, our own experiences, our traumas, all of that creates a foundation or a layer of identity. Mm-hmm. And then we start to believe that's true. And so we act on that and it becomes true in our outer world, our reality. And therefore we get confirmation bias that that's who I am because I see that everywhere. And it's just not actually true objectively or globally true. It's just that your brain looks for confirmation. It doesn't care if it's accurate or not. It just wants to confirm your outer world with the inner world. It's calibrating, right?
Yeah, it basically when you keep saying the same thing over and over again, and you're telling yourself, "I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough." Well, your brain actually looks for experiences and opportunities to make that happen, and then you feel less good or whatever, or less enough, or any of that, and then it begins to change your life into that, or keep you in that space that you kind of are programmed into, you know, as you're growing up. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And certainly, you know, I'm going to brag a little here because that's part of my journey.
Please. Yeah.
Do it.
I'm going to be 62 next year, and doing all this work for basically my entire life has changed my outlook, has changed my in-look.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh my God, this is so different than what I kept telling myself about who I was. You know, it's just, and it blows my mind every day, even just sitting here with you guys. Because normally I tend to stay low key and I'm like, you know, because this is how I'm working on myself. It's like this gentle space I try to be in, but now we've got some high energy going on here and that now, you know, and it's like experimenting and having the opportunities to do these things rather than, God, I'm not good enough. Okay. So the next thing that happens is, sure, we're going to prove that by somebody coming up to you and saying something to you that makes you feel not good enough. Right. And I'm not doing that anymore. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's where you get to, right?
Yeah.
Is you become powerful enough that whatever comes into your space, you slow down with it. It can still have an effect. Mm-hmm. But you slow down with it enough to say, no, that's not who I am. Mm-hmm. No, that's not true. And you question it. And then you move back into alignment with your creation of an identity, which is that more powerful self. But the thing is all of the equipment, all of that power was always in there. It was never not there.
Right. Absolutely. Just like when I remember, you know, anger to the nth degree with my mother. The Holocaust, second, third generation. She's first and second.
Wow.
I was angry with her my entire life until I did that, until I stepped back and I started let things settle and calm down. And I started looking at the bigger picture. And I was like, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. Like, we get angry at people because of what we're feeling inside of us, not because of the other person. I mean, they're triggering. And it's on purpose. It's a good thing. It doesn't feel that way, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But that helps us to get into that space of finding out who we are. And the most important thing I found is being curious. It's being intentional. It's being, you know, persistent, consistent, all those fun words, you know. And it's a lot. Now, please keep in mind, again, over 35 years, it's taken me to get to this point. If you knew me literally last year and the year before, I was in a state of depression to the point where I was sleeping 20 hours a day.
Holy cow. Yeah.
For 10 days. And I I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So it's a choice to get out of that and change your life. And it's not impossible. Trust me, it's not impossible.
Yeah. Well, you said a phrase there, on purpose. The word purpose means forward, pose, meaning to pause. And people say, oh, I got to figure out what my purpose is. I got to find my purpose. And you talked about somebody coming and making you angry on purpose, is that they've set as an intention to piss you off as their purpose, right? And we can have myriad purposes of any form, which goes to the idea that we're intentional about what we're going to do along our journey. Purpose is simply the viewpoints along the way, not the destination. It's just, I'm going to go here and there. I want to see this place on the way. I want to go here on the way. I want to stop at Maverick and get gas on the way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you're bringing up something, because I love Carl Jung and the individuation. Now, you can fill in gaps for me because you've got that brain to do that. I'm going to keep like blew me away on our conversation on my podcast. But so with Carl Jung, it's like, I love this definition about on purpose is forward and pause, forward to pause, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the whole point. He basically explains it in a different way, where he talks about how our life is not about getting somewhere to a purpose. Our life is the purpose. Our life is to clear out all that junk and all the things that happen in past lives, if you believe that, and generational trauma, all that stuff, if you believe it. And that's why that's the purpose. So it fits right in with that. And I think that's really cool, because I never thought about it that way. And there you did it again. You brought up another thinking process in my brain here, but that's
what we're here for.
Right? It's incredible. I love that.
This is the whole reason this show kind of had a tech issue, is you've got a message in here that I think, with your background in trauma, as a generational trauma, Holocaust family, I follow the work of Viktor Frankl and Edith Eger. And I'm going to just lay out something real quick, and then we'll let you run with it here. But we've talked about the non-conscious journey, which is the first journey, which is the programming. It's who you thought you were. It's all of the traumatic experiences. It's the identity that you created from what you knew at the time. And there's a quote that says, you did the best you could. I think it was, is it Marianne Williamson? It might be, no, it's not. She said, you did the best you could with what you had, but when you knew better, you did better. Maya Angelou. Yeah. Yes. So a lot of people are operating from that. You're doing the best you can with what you have. And as you learn to do better, you're going to do better. Now, the second journey is awareness, which is the gentle awakening to all of that. And this is where you see it, you know it's there. It's the first step in transformation, that you can't wake up or change things until you wake up. And then the third one is the journey of grief. For us, we call it the journey of grief because the Latin gravare means weightiness, heaviness. And so we figure all of the heavier emotions, they're not negative, really. They're there to serve you, and they're set up in a certain way for a certain reason. So anxiety tells you you're out of alignment with what you think others are thinking. Depression is you're out of alignment with what you think you should be in the world. Grief is the pathway that you used to take is no longer accessible in time, space, or attachment. And therefore you got to find another way. So grief is saying, hey, you can't go down this road anymore. So it doesn't mean you forget people. It's just simply that pathway is not available anymore. And then you go into anger, and it's like a forge in a fire. You get it too hot, it burns everything up. But you get the right temperature, it burns the chemicals or metals so perfectly that you meld this incredible thing out of the right amount of fire, right? And anger molds you into who you want to be in the world, and it burns out anything that no longer serves you. Yes. Right. So all these heavy emotions play together to allow us to grow. And then you go into acceptance, which is acknowledging what is. So I'm going to pause there for a minute and give you some room to speak about what's coming up for you.
Give me a sec.
Yeah, go ahead and just pick up anywhere.
Well, because I want to follow that process, because that's exactly how it worked in my world. Even though it's circular. Yeah. It still kind of goes from one thing to the next, and then it brings you back into something, and then we're
in a combination of it, right?
Exactly. So like the unconscious journey or non-conscious journey and the programming, that we get that from 0 to 7.
Yes.
And we get that from past lives, if you believe it. And we get that from generations.
Science is even proving the DNA and it's passed on and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Generational trauma stuff. So that's not out there like as much maybe as it used to be 3, 5, 10 years ago, type of thing. That is widely accepted nowadays.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have a story I'd like to share with that to make it easier on people's heads to grasp that. But when this isn't even a trauma, this is something simple that comes through the DNA. It's like there's a little girl, she's 7 years old, her mom's cooking dinner, Christmas dinner, whatever, and she's making a ham, and she cuts the ends off of the ham, putting it into the pan. And the little girl's like, why are you cutting the ends off of the ham? I don't understand. The mom's like, I don't know. We just do that, And so her mom's like, well, go, your grandma and is in the living room. Go ask her, see what she says. So the little girl gets up, runs into the living room, goes and sits next to her grandma. And she says, Grandma, why are we cutting the ends off of the ham? And the grandma looks at her like, I don't know. What do you? I don't know, sweetheart. I'm sure she said sweetheart, but she probably gave her a funny look. And she's like, well, there's your great grandmother over on the other side of the living room. Well, why don't you go over there and ask her? So the little girl gets up, runs over to her great grandma, sits down next to her and says, great grandma, why are we cutting the ends off of the ham? And the great grandma starts laughing. Oh, sweetheart, we have to cut the ends off of the ham because the pan wasn't big enough. It had the pan to get into the stove. So that is generational trauma. It's like everything that comes down through the DNA comes down, even with stuff that
might be right, might not be even anything, just needed to fit in the pan.
Exactly. But that gives an idea of what the trauma does too, because if there's been wars and famine and all these different things generationally, that's also coming down.
So real quick, just to make a plug here, Bruce Lipton in his book, Biology of Belief, talks about the DNA switches being turned on. And so I noticed traits in my kids because of who I was when they were conceived. Right. And so that what was where I was at in my life was passed on to my kids. And I see at different levels how my kids evolved as I evolved. And so the DNA switches on or off depending on where we're at. And we pass that on generationally.
Yes. And that's why it's important to heal your trauma, because you're not only helping your generations behind you, but you're also helping the generations ahead of you, including the ones that are alive right now.
Yeah. And this doesn't have to be like, this is, I mean, now I'm not discounting, Holocaust and some major traumas that happened, that are pretty big things. But this could be like, I don't know, it could be as small as the way that you treat people around you, the way that you treat your kids, the way you interact. When something happens, you act this way. It's maybe even the mentality of men don't show emotion. Don't cry, pull up your panties and get to work type of a mentality. And that gets passed down to your son, to their son, to their son, to their son, and it keeps us stuck in that way of thinking. So just wanted to clarify for those that are listening too, just so that they can shift it into their own world.
Yeah, and I'd like to touch on that because that's what's so challenging with our society today. I don't like using nowadays.
Nowadays.
Back in my day.
At the ends off the ham.
If I show my age, I'll give it. So, especially with the thing with men aren't supposed to cry. That's like comes from probably, I'm not 100% sure, but in my imagination, it would be, when they're going through the war. My grandfather was right before they annexed Czechoslovakia at the beginning of World War II. He was beaten, and they took his business away. They took the home away. They took his bank accounts away. I'm sure and my grandmother witnessed at least the repercussions of that. But, obviously, when you cry in front of a captor, it gives away your weakness. So generationally in my mind, for him not to cry passes that down to ensure the protection and safety
Yep.
of the next generations. But it doesn't work that way in a normal situation of life, where, you know, as men, as humans, we're meant to cry. That releases the toxins out of our body. It releases the what's the word, cortisol.
Yeah.
All the stuff, like when you're angry or frustrated or sad or any of that stuff. We cry when we're angry, we cry when we're sad, but if you're told don't do it, you're locking all that stuff inside of you. And guess what? You get more angry. That turns into rage. It turns into all kinds of different things. So it's important that men understand that when they're ready to do their healing work, that's an important piece of it that leads into the grief part of it. So
Yeah.
And that's the awareness before I even get into the grief part.
It's well, and one more piece of awareness here, because you mentioned the adaptability of the body, the DNA, the adaptability of the brain to traumatic situations. I've never been through anything like the Holocaust, and nor has my family generationally. So none of that was passed on. But what I can see in a single lifetime is there's a thing in relationships called fleas, where you actually pick up the behaviors of the person, the perpetrator, in an unhealthy relationship that you had to pick up to survive that relationship. And they call them fleas because you were taught how to jump so high in that relationship. And then you carry those adaptations into the next relationship, and somebody's going, you've got narcissistic traits. And it's like, no, I learned narcissistic traits to survive a narcissistic relationship. You know, that's different. And so it's just testament to the power of the body and brain to adapt, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And in that also is like, as we do there's adaptations and there's adaptive behavior. So
yeah. Can you clarify?
Well, I guess they're the same thing. It's the same thing. We'll go with that.
Okay.
Adaptations, I think what you're talking about is just trying to squeeze ourselves into a small box to
feel. Like the don't cry thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't cry in front of your captors.
Yeah. So, but when you get into this awareness piece of it and you start to see this stuff, you're going to start to attract people in your life who are going to, and that's going back to Carl Jung. They're going to mirror what you get to release, and your release is part again of your purpose of your life, right?
Yeah.
Get mirrors. You're going to have people mirroring something, and they're going to say something to you, and you're just, instead of getting angry or getting sad or whatever happens in that moment, you get to take an opportunity with that mirroring. You just stop yourself and go, I wonder why I'm feeling this way, or I wonder if it's all me, or I wonder if there's something about that person, and I get to be compassionate. So, and this, it takes a while to do that part, trust me.
Yeah.
But that's the stepping stone with the awareness piece, because that's there intentionally to show you what's going on within yourself so you can shift it.
Yeah.
And then moving, and then when you start paying attention to these emotions, now, I don't know if we talked about this, but the word emotion is energy in motion. So what goes on with that is, like, if you know about the chakra system and you know about trauma, and you know that all of our emotions, when they come in from the time we were children, when we couldn't figure out how to deal with our emotions, and there was nobody there to tell us how to do that.
Right.
When you grow up and all these opportunities in your life come in, they start coming in through the chakras, and they stack on block chakra, stack emotion, block chakra, stack emotion. I think that's what they call CPTSD, is complex PTSD, because it's like a buildup of all these different emotions.
Yeah.
So emotions technically are supposed to flow through the body. Like anger comes in and you're like, okay, I can get angry for a minute, and then I'm done. But for women, this is something I've learned about women through myself, is that women have sadness sitting on top of anger, because we've not been allowed to get angry, because you're not ladylike and you're not, all these whatever. And with men, it's the opposite. It's anger is sitting on top of sadness, and you have to remove the anger, or you get to remove the anger in order to get to the sadness. And both of them are challenging. And we think the opposite or different masculine, feminine, whatever, we understand things differently, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we are actually doing these emotions correctly until we learn how to do it. So the emotions are like a GPS system, right? And it shows us, like you were explaining a little while ago, when you do in your process, your program, that, you know, when you're angry, it's showing you something. Look at it, take it, work with it, so that kind of thing.
To go a little further here, because this is key. You know, researchers are finding that more important than naming the emotions is being able to name the sensations, because emotions are like a language in and of themselves. So when we say we're angry, well, yeah, you might be a combination. It's almost like a palette of colors. You might be angry and joyful and sad, and a blend of all these things in combination. So to just say, oh, I'm angry, is such a blanket statement. It doesn't lend to the color of emotion. Yep. Whereas sensations allow you to notice things in your body, and we're able to regulate those more easily than an emotion. It's like learning a foreign language, and people are limited in their growth to their emotional intelligence or their emotional vocabulary, right?
Yeah.
But they're not limited by sensations. We all know how to communicate those.
Right. Well, yeah. And then that leads into the somatic piece of it, because, you know, when you recognize that it isn't just a word or just an emotion, you know, part of the process, it's in the body. The somatic is in the body. Like we do years ago, cognitive therapy was just talking. I never got anything out of it. But now things have shifted, and they're kind of recognizing the somatic piece of it, because The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Oak. I got another one on you.
You did good. Yeah, good job.
That really turned my life around, because being a veteran, and he did the research on World War I or World War II veterans, that part I don't remember. But it's when we get traumatized, it literally gets stuck in our fascia. It's in our nervous system. It's inside of us. And that's going inside, and the emotions are in there, and they get all stacked up. And it's important for us to recognize, and I'm going to throw in a little bit of an explanation so people can understand what's happening with trauma, because trauma isn't, it's not what's happening to us. It's what happens in the body after the trauma. They say that. They say, I think, right.
Lisa Feldman Barrett says that, you know, our emotions aren't, they're not things that happen to us. It's our brain's way of making sense of the sensations it's feeling.
Right. So you're right. So it's like the sensations when you go into your body, when you're feeling something and you find that part of your body that it's in, like you're angry. Oh my God, I can feel it in my chest.
Yeah.
And then you can, and then you link up with that and connect with that. And literally it only takes a few seconds for it to release. But if you don't allow it, if you just walk, I'm walking away, I don't care. You know, here. So
yeah.
F you, walk away. And
we're good with the language. So yeah.
But it stays stuck, and then it's where to go. And so people who are sad or angry or whatever end up having heart issues. That's where it got stuck. So you're right about being, you know, getting into that somatic piece of it is necessary for the release of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this kind of will lead me into the journey of grief, unless you want to say something.
No, please. Yeah, go. I love hearing your point of view on it.
Okay, thank you. So grief has been an interesting, I'm going to start with mine, and then I'll kind of share a couple of things that I've learned. I did not grieve. Like, I had so many things happen. I went through something called parental alienation, where I don't have time to get into that because that's a lot. But if you, but it is, definitely look it up. And so it's basically in an intact family or in a high conflict divorce. One parent is generally a narcissist. The other parent is generally an empath. They've shown that empaths and narcissists come together in relationship. And so the narcissist who has custody generally will lie to or not tell the whole truth to the children, and the children start pushing the other parent out. So that was my catalyst, that I was the other parent. I was pushed out of my children's life by them, by my children, by what they were told about me, which wasn't true. And so it led me into these things happening, you know, aside from all the other things you mentioned. It led me deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole I landed in the depressive state for 10 days. And before that, probably, I want to say 2018, my mother died. And when that happened, that was the first time I experienced grief in my entire life. And I was in my 50s.
Wow.
So I held on to grief all that time. And when she died, I just allowed myself to be in the grief and to cry and to get angry. And, you know, because I never got a relationship with her because of everything that happened, all that stuff. And so that journey, one thing led to another, to this point of what happened a couple of years ago, where I was almost homeless. And, you know, little big things, like I found out my daughter was pregnant on Instagram, and it broke my heart. And that's where I went into the depression and pulling myself out of it through a veterans group, which I also was trying to avoid because of the experience of the military sexual trauma and harassment. I wanted nothing to do with any of them, right? So little by little, it started building, and I grieved my way through everything. And then last year, that was when I did my ancestral healing, which was big, big grief work, and connecting with the ancestors, releasing it out of my body, you know. And the thing is it's terrifying to people because and I felt this way. You feel like you're going to fall back into that hole and never come out in the grief. But that's not what's happening. You're actually, like, you literally, it takes me 6 minutes tops to grieve. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good now.
Okay. I want to get into the mechanism behind this for a minute. Can we do that?
Yeah.
The grief is saying that the thing that was available, and I love Andrew Huberman's work on this, because he talks about time, space, and attachment. They have to have those three things for there to be grieving. So if you don't have time, space, or attachment, you're not going to grieve. So Queen Elizabeth says that grief is the cost of love, which I think that's, and more clearly, you could say the cost of attachment.
Well, for most of us, yes.
Yeah, but attachment to anything. It could be things, it could be ideals, it could be people. So the grief is the cost of losing that. So, but what it does, it's almost like the brain forces you to find another way. And it makes that grieving process so uncomfortable so that you will find another way. Yes. Because the pathway that you had that was accessible in time, I mean, within minutes, I could call a friend and then that friend's gone forever. I no longer have access to them in time. I used to be able to contact people through space, you know, social media or a phone call or whatever. And I can no longer do that. Well, there's a breakup of the attachment there. Or my dream, it's no longer accessible or in reach. I might feel grief. And then the attachment is the bond we create to it. So if we never attach to it, we're not going to grieve it. Millions of people are dying, you know, every year. And we don't grieve them because we never had access to them in time, space, or attachment. But the things that we did love, our brain says, hey, you can't go down that path anymore. And the brain wants to go down that pathway so badly. And it goes down that path and it's like runs into a stop. And it gives you a chance to create a new pathway. So you don't move on from grieving, you move forward, but in a new direction, right? Can you kind of expound there?
Yeah. It's not, I mean, grieving is a necessary human thing. It's not that, like everything, why does it exist if it wasn't given to us? I don't.
It survived evolution, right?
Exactly. And grief is the very thing. I hope I answer your question in this. Grief is the very thing that moves us forward.
Yeah.
And when we don't pay attention to it, and grief doesn't just happen with death. Grief happens with any kind of loss.
Yes.
Loss.
Thank you for that.
Loss of
or something that doesn't work out like we thought it would.
Right. That's what I was. Yes, exactly. Like if you get married to somebody and it turns out that that wasn't exactly the best direction to go in, and you're still
Yeah.
gonna, even if you're like locked in there, it's still painful, because you wanted it to be a certain way, like you said.
Right.
So yeah, it's important to do that. And what's interesting to me is there's a couple of things about the West that's challenging in the realm of grief, and that's that first of all, most Westerners are afraid of death or dying, right? And we also don't know how to grieve. We're like told, well, you're a guy, you can't cry, so if you're grieving, you got to figure out how to work it out on
Right. Suck
whatever.
it up.
Suck
Right.
it up. Yeah. And it doesn't work that way because you're still human and it's still locked in your body, right? So
Yeah.
back in like indigenous times, or even after that in other countries, have you ever heard of the phrase wailing and gnashing of teeth?
Yeah.
That's grieving. When women experienced any kind of grief, they didn't care where they were. They just sat down with it and they just let it out right there. They didn't care what anybody in street would say. They could do it anywhere. But we don't do that because it's not appropriate in our society, and it
Mm.
lock the grief into the body. And then on top of that, like with the fear of the death and the dying, like I lived in Hawaii, and Hawaii, yeah, it's a part of the West and the United States, but it's still an indigenous state, right?
Right.
I remember driving past a graveyard and they literally had the entire family having a cookout with the recently deceased person in the graveyard, in public, where everybody can see it,
Mm.
to connect with that. So when we hide that grief, it exacerbates the trauma stuck in our system. In my mind, that's
Yeah.
how.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think you did a great job there. There was a woman who escaped North Korea. She was in the camps in North Korea. She came to the US, and she said that being alone with her thoughts and her emotions was harder than being in the camps. That was easier than being with that silence. And in America, especially in the West, we teach don't show emotion, never let them see you sweat. All these marketing ploys of don't let your neighbor know what's going on in you. And I've grown a lot through being vulnerable online, and people have said to me, you're being way too open about stuff. But because that vulnerability is totally against what we've been taught as a society.
Exactly.
But you look at indigenous culture and it's like, no, I saw one tribe in Africa where they actually prop up the person's dead body and they're doing a barbecue with them, and that's their way of grieving. Or in I don't know if it's Vietnam or one of those areas over there where they keep the remains of the body in their home, and they just don't ever really separate fully from them, even though the body's decaying. It's like that person that they fell in love with is still a part of their world. So
Yeah.
different form of grieving. It's interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that due to our programming in the West, though, that's taken that away from us as humans. So it
Mm.
creates an environment where it's more difficult for us to understand why we're going through what we're going through, no matter what that is.
Yeah.
What to do with it. We were never taught. Like, I'm so happy compared to 20 years ago or when I was growing up. Nobody talked about this stuff. Not even really 10 years ago, nobody talked about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. It's like now that we're talking about it and people can become more aware of it, then they know that, wait a minute, I'm not crazy. If I feel this way, this person's telling me to behave a certain way because I'm sad. But if I feel this way, then obviously it can't be wrong if there's other people feeling this way, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that that's an important aspect of that. And I want to give you an opportunity to say something because I really have something that's important that I wanted to share with people
I'm
about.
good. Go ahead and share it. Yep.
So with grief, what I have learned is that there's a couple of things. When you see somebody in grief, you're sitting with them and you are going to be uncomfortable with their emotion because it's going to trigger your emotion. Right? The worst possible thing that you can do is to tell them, don't cry. It's okay. Everything's going to be fine. You'll meet another person. You'll have another, whatever that is. Please don't do that, because it's blocking that person's opportunity to grieve and let it out of their system so they don't have to stay stuck in the grief for their entire lives.
I like that.
The best possible scenario is you're sitting with the person. You say, hey, I will do whatever you need me to do. Do you want me to hold your hand, or let you put your head on my shoulder and cry, or whatever that is? You tell me what you need me to do. And then you listen to them and you sit there. And if you have to cry with them to get that whatever trigger is out while they're doing it, that is the most amazing, beneficial way to grieve, because you're connecting with another human soul, and you're taking care of their grief and your own just by being together like that. Now, as someone who is in a grief process, for you to be aware of what that is helpful also, because then you can ask for what you need. So, if someone tries to tell you, don't cry, do, all that kind of stuff, you say, no, I need to cry. I need to do this. And all I need is for you to just be there and either hug me or, let me put my head on your shoulder, whatever that is, hold my hand. You get to be the person to ask for what you need. And that's a big deal, especially with people in the US, is to ask for what we need. My generation, especially.
Yeah.
Found. But those are very important aspects that I've learned along this grief journey that I've been on. Is like, some people, when they told me to stop crying, I'm like, wait, no, I'm not going to stop crying. I'm going to cry, and I'm going to finish crying. And then when I finish crying, then I'll stop crying until it's crying. Right.
Yeah.
So those are two really important aspects of grief that I think people need to understand and keep in themselves for support, and for themselves to ask for support. So that's what I learned.
I think this ties into the journey of empowerment here, because these are tools. What you just shared are tools that help you be empowered. And so when we go into the journey of acceptance, gratitude, and empowerment, acceptance is just acknowledging what is. So it's the second step in transformation. And then gratitude, the reason we made it a journey by itself is it is a tool of empowerment, but also gratitude acknowledges the good. So you go from acceptance of acknowledging what is, and gratitude acknowledges the good. So you start to see the abundance of the world around you. And we're going to be short on time, so we'll kind of condense here. But when we go into our growth journeys, our ability to grow in our world in a new way, to recreate ourselves or our identity, starts with empowering our inner world first, our inner verse. Like you, what did you call it? It was a great phrase that you just shared there.
How long ago?
Oh, it was a long time ago. But it tied into the inner world, right?
The outlook versus the in-look. Is that what you were talking about? The
in-look, yeah, versus the outlook. And so in order to...
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
I got you back.
So that outlook is when you go into the growth journeys, your outlook is affected by your in-look.
Yeah.
Your ability to see into the unknown is affected by who you think you are. Your ability to vision and dream and act on your legacy, your gift, is determined by you thinking that you can do that. So when I started my journey with Steve Hardison in the parking lot of a welfare center, and he says to me, after I ask him the question, can you? And he says, yes. And I said, how can you say yes if you don't know what I'm going to ask? And he says, there's nothing you can ask that's bigger than me. That's because his in-look and his inner verse was so strong that there was literally nothing off the table. Mm-hmm. But for many of us, we're so stuck in our identity being, I can't, who am I? Then when we go to dream, we're like, what's the point? Why would I do that? Why would I waste my time dreaming and envisioning something when I know I can't do it?
Right.
And that knowing they can't do it is all made up, right? In
my life, I'm going to call bullshit on that. Just saying. I don't know. Years ago, yes, absolutely. I agree with you. But now I call bullshit. Yeah.
We get people in our program that are 75 years old that are starting their journey. 75 is, and I used to think 75, you're kind of like tapering down and kind of zoning out and just on the way out, right?
That's the problem.
I know. I'm learning these guys are just getting going.
Yeah.
You know, Richard Duroni, Victoria, who's in our Limitless group, they're in their 70s and they are rebirthing themselves and recreating themselves in their 70s. It just blows my mind. It's never too late, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, there are people in their 90s going to the gym and working out, and I saw doing pull-ups. It was like in 94 or something like that. I'm like, man, okay.
I heard a lady say one time, she said, if I knew I was going to be in my 90s and my 70s, she's like, if I would have done something back then and known that I'm going to live another 20 years, oh, there's so many things I would have done different.
Yeah. Well, do it. Don't wait.
Do it.
I am actually experiencing that now. I'm not waiting until my 70s to wait till my 90s. I'm just doing it. It's so funny because just real quick, you know, I go to the gym once a week because I do like Tai Chi exercises during, and I'm noticing the most important part for older people are your hips and your thighs, so you can get off the toilet, right? I'm just saying. So I'm like, really, I'm not going to be walking around hunched over on a cane because someone said that's what's going to happen to me. It's not working that way. So I go to the gym and I love my squats and I love, you know, all that stuff. And it's like, well, holy crap, I can get off the floor, not just the toilet.
Yeah.
Do that.
I love that quote, Hugh. I mean, that really is it. We're taught to be limited in a world without limits, and we are limitless. Yeah, and Chris Smith, he said, you know, possibility exists, limitations are created.
Yes. It's all programming.
Yeah, all programming.
All programming.
And you've gone through traumas that, you know, we didn't go into detail and we don't need to, but you've been through traumas and those didn't define you. I mean, they helped create character.
Yeah, there's that.
But you're able to rewrite your story.
Yeah.
Inclusive of the traumas, right?
Yep. And that just thank you for pointing that out, because it was almost an addiction for me for a long time, because I got tired of, that's my line, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Way out, you know? So yeah, I mean, and people have gone through harder things than I have, and people have gone through not as hard things as I have. That doesn't matter. We all have the same emotions, and we all get to clear those emotions and connect with ourselves and connect with the love within ourselves. I mean, that's the bottom line, because that's who we are. That's the expansiveness. That's the bigness.
Right.
Right? The giantness.
Yeah, perfect. Good recovery right there. Yeah. So we're coming up on the end of the show. I'm so glad that we got back on. I'm so glad that we pushed through and found a way, because this is a demonstration of life. Is more than likely it's not going to go the way you expected.
Right.
And it's up to you whether you get back in the ring or not.
Right.
And I love the idea that when your phone was working, you said, let's do this. Let's go right now. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Cause I was resigned to rescheduling.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Yeah. I totally, you know what? But that's the trauma. This was trying to get on here in the circles and circles of whatever you said. Ryan leaves, and that's the end of it. And it's like, you know, heck no, we're not doing this. But that's all part of my healing process. I wouldn't have done that at any other point in my life.
So incredible. Yeah.
Cool. Let's just do it.
And go for, and it's a killer show. There's so much value in this.
Yeah.
Ryan, I'd love to hear what you're kind of taking from this entire conversation here.
Yeah, I sat here and I did a lot more listening, and as I was listening to you guys talking about these things, I had the opportunity yesterday to put this into practical application. And it's funny because there's a lot of times this happens to us, Caroline, is where we have a guest on and that guest applies to what's going on during that week. Me and Nick all the time. It's so crazy. And then it reinforces what's going on. And we can also learn, you know, hey, well, maybe we could shift this or shift that, or this is applicable to what's happening right now in my life. And yesterday, my son loves, his name is Matt, and he loves football. He loves any sport, but it was a playoff game in a football, and he's 13, and kind of right on that cusp of wanting to be grown up, but also wanting to be a kid, right? So he had this playoff game, and they got spanked. they got beat pretty bad. And his team, they sat over in the huddle, and I could tell there was a lot of emotion, and I was about 20 or 30 yards away, just watching this happen. And he had his helmet, and he had his head down, and he's walking towards me, and he hits me, and I might get emotional. I'm probably going to cry here. Uh, he he comes up, and hits me hard in my chest, buries his head, and he just starts bawling. And hey, buddy, what's up? What's going on? And I'm looking at it from a different perspective, as somebody that's done a lot of work. And he's in the emotion of it, and he's sad because he didn't win, and his team, it's over for the season. And so there's grief. And he felt like, maybe there was some things that he did to let his team down, or they did to let, the team down, etc. And so I talked to him about it. I gave him a hug. I said, "It's okay, man. It's okay, buddy." Gave him a big hug, ruffled up his hair a little bit. And I said, "Dude, this is what we were talking about on the car ride up here, about what men do. It's okay. There's grief, man. You can cry, and it's a safe place right here to do it. Right here in public. And I'll cry with you." And I hugged him, and then I talked to him about it. I said, "It's okay because you're sad because of this. It didn't work out the way you thought it was going to go. You didn't win." And then I had an opportunity to talk to him too about the losses. And it's okay. What did you learn from the losses? "Oh, we can come back stronger." I said, "That's fine. We can. But in the losses, you find out your heart. You get to feel your emotions. You get to work through those things. You get to have gratitude for your teammates, for your coaches, for the experience, for your dad for giving you a big hug and telling you it's okay to cry and to feel. This is what a man does." And then you now have the opportunity to show your son and shift it, because a lot of people aren't taught that. And he said, "Thanks, Dad." And we got in the car, and he drove home, and he was excited to talk to his mom about the game. And even though they lost. And so this is just interesting to me, that this happens the way it does. And I'm so grateful for you for the traumas that you've been through, because they now have taught you the lessons that you need to then go and share with other people and to help them in their healing journey. And then it ripples down and down and down. Instead of the generational trauma that was happening before, it shifts, it pivots, and you're a huge part in that. And I just wanted to thank you for your part in that, and to continue doing it, because you're making a giant impact. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Ryan. May I share something that hit me? Do we have time for me to do?
Please.
Oh yeah, we've got time.
This is
Yes.
this is powerful. Listening to you, Ryan, and my experiences with men throughout my life, I acknowledge your vulnerability to do this here and now with this, and I'm tearing up too. So thanks, because I'm an empath and I pick up on everybody else's. But here's the thing that I recognized about what you were saying. It's like, give yourself credit for what happened with your son, because you let him do that by being that person and allowing him the opportunity to do that. Not a lot of people, in my experience in the past, that wasn't there. So what you did, that was you. That was all you. And he got to learn from you, and you got to learn from him, and you got to experience the emotion with him. And that's probably the most powerful thing on this planet, is that experience for both of you. So that's why I acknowledge you in this, because wow, I'm like, oh my god, that's why we were supposed to come back today.
Yeah. See, that's what we find with tech is it usually goes really bad on the tech side when there's a message that needs to be shared.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you one more question here tied into this, just based on everything that we've talked about. And there's no way that we could cover it all. I know in your brain too, there's just so much that we could go down a rabbit hole on. But are you getting a nudge to share anything with the viewer? There's a person across the screen from you right now, whether it's right now or down the road. Somebody's going to be looking at the screen, looking at you, talking to you directly. Do you have a nudge of something that you should be saying right now to them?
Yeah. And it's actually based on what just happened with Ryan. I mean, what his experience was with his son is the epitome of our conversation today and what it gets to look like when we step into our trauma and our grief and uncovering that truth of who we really are. And just I have a saying, it's be willing, be courageous, be free. I made this mantra up years ago, but it's important that you make that choice to do that, because Ryan made the choice, and look at the experience he had with his son. And oh my God, Nick made the choice, and look what he's doing with his business. I mean, this is you're touching millions, or I don't know how many people you're touching, but it'll get there.
I don't either, but we don't get to see that, right?
Millions. I'm just going to say it. Let's put that out into the universe.
Love it.
That's the thing, is the more we come together in conversation like this, in any format, in any way, in any whatever's going on the planet, when we come together in community and we talk and we learn about each other and we accept that we're the same, I think that's the most important thing. I'm going to cry now.
I love this. I mean, it really speaks to the message of the giants and the smalls, which is that we are all equipped with this. And though our circumstances might be different, somebody might be born in a very poor country, might not have a lot of the opportunities, but what they do have opportunity with is to maximize their gifts in that domain as much as they're able. That's available to everybody. And so there truly aren't the limitations that we put on ourselves until we start putting those back on ourselves. We are unlimited creatures. Absolutely. And we box ourselves in. I love what Townsend Wardlaw says. He says, the moment you believe a belief, it becomes limiting by the nature of believing it, and which is the definition of a limiting belief. It's stop boxing yourself in, right? And your story, somebody said, your mess becomes your message, right?
Yeah.
And I love that idea too. I just see that in trauma work, like what you've been through and what you've put together, this is a much needed area, because trauma isn't just a single definition of some event. I mean, it can be complex, like CPTSD. It can be traumatic and all of a sudden. It can be global. It can be, what is it? Vicarious trauma. It comes in many forms. But when you start to learn that you can incorporate that into your identity and rewrite that identity to anything you want, that's the goal of our work, the 12 Journeys, is to give you an operating system that allows you to rewrite that identity.
And if it's okay with you, I don't know if you were going to ask the question or not, but I want to plug my podcast, which is called Awakening Soul Divinity, because that's exactly what this is all about. And I have conversations with people like Nick, and maybe I'll pull you on, Ryan.
It'd be awesome.
And it's just to show you, it's with healers and, people in any different types. It goes into raising consciousness. It goes into all kinds of different things, but that's why we're here on this planet, to help each other and work with each other. So the conversations that we have on there are profound and expansive, like you're talking about, Nick. And I've met so many amazing people.
Is it Awakening Soul Divinity?
Yes, Awakening Soul Divinity.
.com?
.com.
I'm going to add that in here. Let me know if this is correct. Does that look right?
Awakening Soul.
Yeah, there's your face on there.
That's it.
Your site. So I just want to share that because it's powerful what you're doing. And I think the combined ripple of all of us is we're all trying to make a positive impact here. So Ryan's got his way of doing it. I've got my way of doing it. You're doing it your way. But when we come in combination like this, it just enhances the ripple. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, final thoughts from you?
Just, for those of you at home that are maybe some of this stuff might be even new concepts for you, and you're just starting to get curious and ask questions. Do exactly what Caroline said. Be gentle with yourself. There's no like with grief especially. There's no one way of doing this.
Right.
Your way is your way, but to find that, to lock in and find tools and find people that will help you along that journey so that you can understand you better is really what it's about, and then to move through. And you can do it. It's we call it the work, and you can do the work, and your life will be enhanced. You'll be able to help others on their journey and continue that ripple that we've just talked about. So yeah, Caroline, thank you so much for all that you're doing in the world. It's magnificent. You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're mirrors.
Bunch of mirrors.
Yeah.
Well, for you, the viewer, on the other side of this screen, you may know somebody that needs this episode. And so be sure to share. It's going to be on YouTube on Wake Up with Giants TV. There's a shareable link there. Make sure that when you're there that you subscribe so you know when we go live every single dang time. And we are going to start doing these every other week live is our goal. And then we're going to start filtering back through the older videos so that we keep that energy fresh. And so if you know somebody that'd be a great guest on this show, please invite them. Our biggest thing is we want to make a ripple, and we need your help to do it. So you may know somebody that needs this. So even if you share it with one person, share it with one person today. Does that sound good? Yeah. So everybody here, thank you so much. Your comments make the show. We're grateful for you. Just some of you, like Hugh, especially, you've been here from the beginning. And I'm just so grateful for your interaction with this and your consistency in showing up. Hugh's been a gift and a blessing in a unique way, and just grateful for you. And so thank you, all of you. Go make it a giant day, and we will see you in the next episode.
Love you too.